The conversation surrounding Maxx Crosby and the Las Vegas Raiders has largely centered on frustration. Frustration with losing, frustration with instability, frustration with decisions that seem to signal short term thinking over long term vision. Trade rumors have swirled, speculation has intensified, yet amid all the noise, one key element of Crosby's reported discontent may not be getting the attention it deserves: isolation. Crosby has been the constant in a franchise defined by change. Since entering the league in 2019, he has developed into the heart and soul of the Raiders' defense. A relentless edge rusher with a motor that rarely cools, Crosby has earned 5 Pro Bowl selections and 2 All-Pro nods while playing through coaching changes, roster overhauls, and organizational resets. He has produced regardless of who lines up next to him, regardless of who calls the defense, regardless of who occupies the front office, but being the lone constant can carry a cost. According to NFL insider Tom Pelissero, one overlooked factor in Crosby's frustration may be the sheer amount of turnover he has witnessed. When he arrived, the Raiders still called Oakland home. Since then, the franchise has relocated, reshaped its identity, and cycled through leadership at an alarming rate. Klint Kubiak will become the 6th head coach the Raiders have employed in as many seasons. John Spytek is the 5th general manager since Crosby was drafted. That level of instability doesn't just disrupt scheme continuity, it disrupts relationships. Pelissero described Crosby as the lone wolf still standing, a player who has watched nearly every meaningful teammate from his early years depart. John Gruden reportedly reflected on a roster from his final season in Las Vegas that featured around a dozen legitimate contributors, and every one of them is gone. Imagine walking into a locker room year after year and seeing new faces, new voices, new philosophies. Then doing it again and again. At some point, it stops feeling like evolution and starts feeling like erosion. For a competitor like Crosby, who has publicly emphasized loyalty, culture, and accountability, constant roster churn can create a subtle but powerful disconnect. It's not simply about wins and losses, it's about identity. When the players you built chemistry with are no longer there, and the players who replace them are also gone, the sense of continuity disappears. Colton Miller, A.J. Cole, and Daniel Carlson are among the few remaining connections to Crosby's rookie season. Everyone else has rotated through the building: defensive captains, offensive leaders, coaches who preached one philosophy only to be replaced by another. Systems installed and abandoned within a year or two. Stability breeds trust. Trust breeds belief. Belief sustains effort during adversity. Without that chain, even elite competitors can grow weary. Of course, other factors have been heavily reported. Crosby was openly unhappy when the Raiders shut him down for the final 2 games of the season. From the organization's perspective, it may have been a precautionary measure. From Crosby's perspective, it may have felt like a signal that the team had shifted focus away from competing in the present. There have also been reports suggesting he is uneasy about the influence of Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady's longtime business partner within the organization. Whether that influence is overstated or not, perception matters. Players notice structural shifts. They notice new power dynamics. But beyond those headlines lies the more human element Pelissero alluded to: the loneliness of being the last pillar standing in a constantly demolished structure. Crosby has given the Raiders elite production. He has played through pain. He has represented the franchise publicly with intensity and pride, yet he has not experienced sustained team success. Coaching changes have reset defensive philosophies. General manager changes have reshaped roster-building strategies. Each reset promises a brighter future. Each reset delays continuity. The Raiders' leadership can argue that many of those moves were necessary. Underperformance demanded action. Losing seasons justified change, but necessary change still extracts a toll. For Crosby, the question may not simply be, can this team win? It may be, can this organization finally stop resetting long enough to build something stable? Rich Gannon has suggested that Crosby does not want out. Crosby himself has not formally requested a trade. That distinction matters. Speculation can inflate quickly, especially around star players. Yet even without a public trade demand, the tension feels real. The Raiders believe they are trending upward. The hiring of Klint Kubiak signals an offensive recalibration. The front office reshuffle suggests renewed vision. Ownership appears determined to stabilize operations. But from Crosby's vantage point, he has heard similar optimism before. And this is where Raiders fans may be overlooking something critical. Elite players don't just crave money or accolades, they crave alignment. Alignment between coaching staff and front office. Alignment between roster construction and scheme. Alignment between messaging and action. Crosby has seen alignment fracture repeatedly. When a player looks around and no longer recognizes the faces beside him and doesn't even recognize the faces that were there before those faces, it creates a subtle sense of detachment. The Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air empty room comparison captures it perfectly. It's not bitterness, it's disorientation. For the Raiders, this situation demands clarity. If Crosby remains committed, the organization must demonstrate tangible stability, not just words. That means allowing Kubiak's staff time to implement vision. It means avoiding another front office overhaul in 12 months. It means constructing a roster that complements Crosby's prime rather than wasting it. If Crosby ultimately decides he wants a fresh start, that decision would reflect not just dissatisfaction with a moment, but fatigue with a pattern. Franchises often underestimate how cumulative instability affects cornerstone players. Wins can mask dysfunction temporarily, but when wins are scarce and change is constant, even the most loyal competitor begins to reassess. Maxx Crosby has been the Raiders' emotional engine for years. He has played like someone determined to drag the franchise forward. The question now is whether he still believes the franchise is capable of moving forward without resetting yet again. For Raider Nation, the coming weeks will be tense. Trade rumors will persist, public statements will be dissected. But beneath it all lies a simpler truth. Stability matters. And until Las Vegas proves it can provide that, the unease surrounding its best defensive player will not fully disappear. The conversation surrounding Maxx Crosby and the Las Vegas Raiders has largely centered on frustration. Frustration with losing, frustration with instability, frustration with decisions that seem to signal short-term thinking over long-term vision. Trade rumors have swirled, speculation has intensified, yet amid all the noise, one key element of Crosby's reported discontent may not be getting the attention it deserves: isolation. Crosby has been the constant in a franchise defined by change. Since entering the league in 2019, he has developed into the heart and soul of the Raiders' defense. A relentless edge rusher with a motor that rarely cools, Crosby has earned 5 Pro Bowl selections and 2 All-Pro nods while playing through coaching changes, roster overhauls, and organizational resets. He has produced regardless of who lines up next to him.